one of the things that I bring up a lot is in therapy is just belonging, right? I think it's a very basic human need. And a lot of times I look at like pathology or when things go wrong, or what happens when we don't belong, the things that go wrong that happen when we don't feel like we belong. And so specifically, being somebody doubly marginalized, Black and queer, and working with my own community, I see what happens when we don't feel like we have a sense of belonging to our families, in particular, and the ways that we then go searching for our chosen family, but also the harmful impact that has of feeling like you're not worthy of belonging, And so connection, I think, is the foundational piece to good mental health, because as human beings, we're designed to be in relationship with one another. That's how we survived as a species, right? Like if you were alone, you were probably going to die, And so being in groups and feeling that sense of connection and belonging to a group is essential, I think, for mental health. Yeah.
What are some like hallmark qualities of a good community, or say if someone doesn't have a community, right?
Yeah.
How can they identify one community from the other, as far as like, should I belong to this, or is this community toxic to me? Because community can also be bad if that community is like tearing you down.
That's a great point.
Or judging you.
That's a
so
good point.
Back to the whole point of importance of language, because I think the right community is going to use the right language to reach you or empower you or inspire you. Yeah. So can you speak a little bit about like what are some things that somebody could look for in a community?
Yeah.
Whether it's like a sport team or an art form or whatever else,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there are different points of connection, right? So one point of connection might be like you said, like a sports team, right? Like this is something that I enjoy doing, right? And so I'm amongst other people who enjoy doing this thing.
So like interest-based.
Interest-based, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And that thing in itself might be what brings you into the group, but then when you're in the group, there may be deeper intimacy that develops over time because you're hanging out with these people who all enjoy doing the same thing, right? So that can be a point of connection to a sense of belonging. I think about how I feel. Do I feel like I can show up as my full self in a community, right? I think this is actually. Do people know about soul?
Huh?
On this podcast, do they know about soul?
No, we haven't talked about it.
Okay. Soul is great. And it's a group of friends that me and Vin belong to. And I think that was one of my real first experiences of like a deep sense of belonging. I'm going to cry. A deep sense of belonging because I felt like I could show up fully as myself at Soul. And that's how I knew that I had found a sense of belonging. Like I didn't have to hide parts of myself. So I think, if you can find yourself in a space where you feel like you can be you and you don't have to cut off parts of yourself for a sense of like attachment, then you found a nice community to belong to. Mm-hmm.
Wow, it's very touching. So the theme that I hear is being confident and being visible when the armor's down.
Yes. If you can drop the armor and be safe, that's gold.
Yeah. Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like where this is going. Mm-hmm. So Aaron, you've been involved in like several different communities, whether it's soul or African dance and urban choreography, right? Can you speak a little bit about like maybe how mental health is viewed in these different communities, whether there's like similarities or is one community more open towards these conversations than others? Because you also went to Ghana to study dance, right? Like,
yeah, actually, I went to Ghana on a service learning trip in grad school. So I do study West African dance. This trip, there was one day that we spent at the University of Ghana studying dance, but for the most part, we were over there. And shout out to ASB Ghana. It's an organization that takes students from college over to Ghana and other places in Africa now as well. So. Can we put that in the show notes or something? We'll talk about that later. But yeah, so that trip was really a service learning trip. But as far as the conversation around mental health in different communities, I see now, even within the dance community, the conversation growing more, just because I think the conversation around mental health is just really, really burgeoning right now. But typically, I don't think people... historically, I don't feel like the communities I've been a part of have like explicitly said mental health, right?
Okay.
So for instance, like for my master's program, I had to write a thesis to graduate. and I wrote my thesis on the impact of West African dance on positive mental health. And so you will hear people, I think, when they dance, talk about, and this was what the research showed, talk about like, I'm going to get my healing, right? Like I'm going to class like to get my healing, right? So I was interested in like, well, what do you mean when you say that? Right? Like what is it about this practice that you feel to be healing? Now, I 100% know this to be true, right? Like I'm not questioning that it is healing, but I was interested in like, can we really like kind of make more explicit or tease out the parts of the form that are healing? So one, just moving your body, right? We already know tons of research on exercise and what that does for the body. But the piece about mindfulness, right? So when I'm moving and I'm focused on moving in the music, I'm in the moment, right? That in itself is positive mental health, right? For African Americans, there's this deeper sense of ethnic identity and ethnic pride that can come from participating in the community, which is correlated with positive mental health, right? And the other piece was, so there's mindfulness, a sense of community and belonging. And there was one more that is escaping me right now, but it's going to come back if I keep talking. A sense of belonging, what we've been talking about the entire time, right? So the drum and dance community is pretty small, at least in LA, right? And it's very tight knit, right? And you see the same people at class all the time, right? Like we gather outside of class, like we have different events that we all come to together. And so there again is that piece about the importance of a sense of community and helping to support your mental health, you know, so.